That was brilliant, Rob.
Fantastic.
Very good. Very good.
Fantastic.
Good morning, all, and welcome.
Go for it, Rob.
Today on the Digital Download, we are going to talk about leading through change or crisis. This is really following up on a recent Digital Download where we were talking about polycrisis, but more on that in a moment. First, let's have today's panelists introduce themselves. Adam, would you please start us off?
With pleasure. Hi, I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm delighted to be here with such a thrilling bunch of people.
Welcome. Jordan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan Abbott, B2B social influence and interaction advisor at Supero, proud DLA Ignite partner, and if you couldn't tell, Alex's son.
Very good looking son.
First time panelist on the show. So everyone, please welcome.
Hey!
All right. Thank you. Alex.
Hello, everyone. So Alex Abbott, founder of Supero and also very proud partner of DLA Ignite.
Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm thrilled to be on the Jordan Abbott Show.
Excellent. Tracy, this is your first appearance on the Jordan Abbott Show. Would you please introduce yourself?
I'm so excited to be on the Jordan Abbott Show. My name is Tracy Borison, founder of TLB Coaching and Events, the Canadian representative on the panel today. And I'm also a proud partner of DLA Ignite.
Excellent. And myself, I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results. We are based in the Boston, Massachusetts area here on the East Coast of USA, and yet another proud partner of DLA Ignite. So today we have a very special guest, Craig Neal, the Collaborator. Adam, is he here in the green room?
He is, and here he comes now.
Excellent. Welcome.
Hey.
Hi, Craig.
Hey, everyone.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning and good afternoon to my friends over in the UK.
That's right.
Yeah.
So to give our audience a little bit of background and insight, Craig works with executives and their teams to manage organizational change. But rather than me telling everyone, Craig, would you please take a moment to introduce yourself?
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Rob. And again, thank you guys for having me on. This is, exciting. I'm used to like one-on-one, interviews, but this is great because we have, a plethora of different perspectives, and different opinions. By dint, we're all unique. And that's kind of like the angle in which I approach things, right? So I'm known as the collaborator, and that's what I do. I collaborate with leaders and their people to enhance collective performance. But I do that looking at each individual player and their uniqueness, because the sum makes up the distinction. And so, my whole bag is, of course, strategy, organizational development, process improvement, and culture, of course. But one thing that most fail to do is really focus on positioning. And you do that with identifying what makes you different. And so my crusade, if you will, and I've shared this a couple of times, is, I guess, against or defending my clients against commoditization, right? So no one's safe from it, whether you provide, a service or you, of course, develop a product, a lawyer looks like a lawyer, a doctor looks like a doctor, a, salesperson looks like a salesperson, because we've been, of course, trained to think that way. And instead of focusing on, competing, perhaps focusing on standing out. And, I guess that's my brief, if you will.
Nice.
Excellent. So I have a whole list of questions that I prepared for you coming on.
As do I. I've got a quick question for you on that very point, Craig.
Please.
So a lot of what we do is encouraging the individuals that we work with within the corporate framework to be themselves. Because we always
Yes.
say to people, you are your only USP. So you have to lead with who you are.
Mhm.
Now, I think that a lot of the challenge that organizations have, and subsequently the people within the organizations, is that they fail to see these days what is a matter of hygiene and what is a USP or a differentiator. So they
Yes.
typically will say things like, we are top quartile, or we are market leader, or we are extremely customer focused, or we are, and it's just
The
not, it's
buzzwords.
just
The
not.
buzzwords.
So,
Yeah.
so how do you, when you're working with people to help them realize how they can be viewed as something which is a commodity, how do you break through that barrier that they've put up, where they genuinely believe that because they have 10 happy customers, that makes them customer focused, and that's a point of differentiation? How do you kind of slap them around the face so they go, oh my God, I see what you mean now? How do you get that aha moment?
Hey, okay. You know what? I love the way you asked and presented that question, Adam. And it's
But Craig, you don't have to slap customers around the face. It's all right, isn't it?
no. Um, I knew you guys would be cracking me up. Yeah, I watched the
That's just an Adam thing, the slapping. Yeah, you don't have to do that.
After this.
and Rob guided me, through the process of getting out with you guys. So I guess I'm always prepared. So again, as I shared, in the opening, I collaborate with leaders and their people. So I'm not the specialist or expert that just sits in the C-suite and he runs out to the production line to get some juice and bring it back and say, "Hey guys, I've got this brilliant idea." I speak to each and every one of the players. Of course, barring a international travel, or 25 sites. But while I'm there, I have an opportunity to really use my best weapon, and it's here. So I listen to them. I observe. Observation research is kind of fallen by the wayside. In a lot of cases, right? So no one has the time, or at least they believe that. But fortunately, I do. And I utilize my time, to really get to understand how people walk, talk, and feel. So listening, and not uh, just on the surface level, but really thinking about the individual. Now, I'm not a life coach, right? So I will exclude that. I'm not a coach at that. I can coach, but more so, I'm a great advisor and more importantly, a listener. And so when I hear these things, when I see the interactions, most of my engagements, they're saying things like oh, everything's fine, or it couldn't be better, which is a farce. There's no substitute for better. That's a plug for another one of my trademarks. However, to answer your question, Adam, it's really exposing them to what I call options, right? So if I'm breathing, the same air, if I'm surrounded by all the happenings of my normal day, I'm going to believe that this is it. I can't move forward. There's nothing else out there. So when they're exposed, it's kind of like having, I guess I wouldn't say a best friend, but someone who, like myself, is very, very objective. Take the time without judging, without a preconceived, expectation, getting in and not walking you through, but walking that walk with you. So I like to say, a business coach, will share some, ways for you to develop your repertoire, whether it's, time management, of course, self-development, so forth and so on. And then, hey, grasshopper, you're ready to go. A consultant, a business consultant, most of them, will in most cases work independently, and they'll take care of the task or the project and say, all right, go ahead, go implement it. Here's my report. What I do, I roll up my sleeves and I say, let's do it together. And that's been an effective way for me to not only encourage that leader who ultimately makes the decision to move forward, was smart enough to bring me in. It helps add that encouragement to really stick with the process, right? Because I know that Craig isn't just here to, wow me and share information that I can readily get on the internet. He's actually listening to me and helping me not become a better Craig, but become a better me. So hope I answered that okay, Adam.
Can I just add on to something, because I love what you're touching on there, Craig, about like having someone else who can see your secret sauce, right? Because I feel like one of the things that internally most people do is that we think the things that we're awesome at are just things. They're things that everybody's awesome at. And when you bring in that third party who knows what is unique about your awesomeness and can show you that, can reflect that back to you, it really is powerful. And then being able to take that and build strategy and things on it. I think it's one of the reasons why I think it's valuable to have an outside source to come in and be able to see that, because all teams get this, like you get going on your daily tasks and then it's just like your life. You mentioned that, right? And having someone point that out to you and be like, that not everyone does this, right? I think a lot of companies can't see that on their own. So it's awesome that you
It's
and
about the
others
blind
like
spot,
yours.
isn't it?
Yeah, not everyone does that, but then I'm blocking that my focus on ensuring that they're distinctive, right? So not everyone does this, but so we focus a lot on weaknesses, right? But strengths are what we should really be mindful of, right? How can I help you become better, right? Again, there's no substitute for better. Another shameless plug. However, I think for myself and how I present, I guess my package, right? So I only work with 3 to 5 clients in a calendar year, and I do that intentionally, right? So there's the availability. I'm always accessible for my clients, so they can just tap in, to my smarts, or perhaps get me involved in things that they're doing. I don't have to think of 25. Let me pick one of you, 25 Jordans, right? That I have to recall some conversations or things we've gone through, because I'm not chasing after closing and sealing accounts. I'm chasing after the results, right? I want to help them become better. I get paid, based off of my contributions to, getting those results. So I'm not focused on, hey, how much money can I get? I will leave that to some of their team members. What I'm focused on is, okay, am I going to provide value in this engagement? And is it lasting value? And, with everyone wanting to be a coach, a consultant, and, they say they can do this, the person who, the cobbler now is calling themselves a foot consultant, and, so forth and so on. Right. So the name and the buzz comes around. My distinction was, if you happen to have expertise in multiple areas, which we all do, right? And I'm glad your voice is back to normal there, Adam. Sounds like it after that flu. And I love your guitars, by the way.
Thank you. You're very kind.
A lot of folks don't really recognize, indeed, they don't recognize, the talents that they have, or they're thinking multitasking. You don't have to multitask to be effective, but it's great to have reference to those, tools within your box, and the experiences that you have. For myself, I cover a wide array of, expertise, and I'm not talking about, hey, I dive into this and I play around with this. I take it very serious. I spend a lot of my time researching and, of course, developing on my own. Have I worked with other consultants and coaches? Absolutely. I think it's great. But moreover, being able to identify the challenge, not by using best practices from elsewhere, but what's going on here. So I always approach, at the start of an engagement, I come in with an open mind. I don't listen to my clients' arbitrary, thoughts on, what the root cause is. I explore that with them, and in a lot of cases, very objectively. So I'll give you an example. So when I'm engaged, the champion for, or my client will say, okay, well, hey, let's go ahead and take a look at the plan, for example. Hey, John, here's Craig. He's going to work with us for a few months and get things moving around here, right? So naturally, John is expecting me to have that top hat and walk around the plant for a series of days, ask him a bunch of probing questions, and you know uh, gather my intelligence, and I'll return the next day. Well, oftentimes I'll leave John alone because I know naturally he's he's going to show me the best of the best and show that he's efficient, right? Because he knows I'm in cahoots with the boss. So I call that my second impressions theory, and I do that even with engagements when I meet people out and about, right? First impression, of course, I want you to like me. You want me to like you. So we're going to talk all the fluff talk, and we're best friends. And hey, you know what? Hey, here, scan my LinkedIn barcode or QR code. Well, this is a digital download. My bad. I'm going back. I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead and scan it. All right, great. We're friends. And if we're going to have a meeting after that, I would hope that it would be, rapid, because I purge about 30 every month. I meet roughly about 400 people each month. And, we may connect, but when we play, to the LinkedIn as like Facebook, or just to show that we have 1,000 connections with no substance, it's like, never mind. So I kind of keep it slim. So if you guys have taken a look at my profile, you'd be like, what's this 300? What? Oh, wow, okay, well, I wonder if he likes people. Well, I do, but I'm very guarded because there's a lot of secrecy in what I do as well. And I don't want my clients or some of my connections being attacked. But back to that second impressions theory, so I stay on track. So we'll meet and we'll have a cup of coffee, or we'll have a virtual whatever. My hope, or more importantly, what I'm looking for, is consistency. So as we've kind of shedded some of the barriers at the networking event or whatever, trade association gathering, we feel comfortable with one another, which kind of takes off the pressure, and we're more than likely going to expose who we truly are, right? Consistency. If you were a jerk, please be a jerk when I meet you meet with you the second time. Okay, I have some jerk friends too, so I'll hang out with them when I feel jerky. But if you are playing nicey and jerky, right there, there's an imbalance. And I also challenge people to hold me to that, right? I want to always be authentic. Right? I'm a human being as well. So that applies to not only having connections and meeting new people, but it applies to the work that I do. For some reason, I always remain objective. My brother, who is a technical, he's a technical writer for intellectual property. He had mentioned, Craig, it's funny. You always stay on brand. And I said, it's just the right thing to do. Who are you? Are we putting up this facade online because we have tools to become creators? It's great. It's awesome. But with everyone having the ability to do it, you shape the narrative to what suits you. But oftentimes, we're looking at it from a micro lens. And I guess I'm going on about a lot of stuff, but I believe relative to it.
Craig, I wanted to scratch that a little bit more. Tracy, I found it interesting that you picked up on people don't see themselves as unique, because when Craig was first talking about that, I went the exact opposite, where people think they are unique and really they just look like every other lawyer, every other doctor. I like Rob Turrell's comment, discovering the uniqueness of a person or the secret sauce of a business is not as easy as it's a bundle of experiences and ingredients. So help us dig into that a little bit more. How do you help them bring out that uniqueness? And how do you, as Adam told us, slap them in the face when they think they're being unique and they're just really not.
All right. Well, let me jump back on to I guess the full name, right? I'm Craig Neal, the Collaborator. And as you all know, the collaborator or collaboration means that you have someone side by side with you or focused on the same goals, right? So that all begins when we establish trust. That second impressions theory that I shared with you, it's kind of like my quick trust building, exercise, right? From the get, I say, before we talk about anything, it's important for us to establish trust. I don't move forward after that. And I share this with my clients and, oftentimes people that I engage with. So trust is always tested, right? So as people, we're going to kind of throw some curveballs here. Because I believe we're very dynamic. So it's not just like, okay, yeah, whatever you say, Craig. It doesn't work that way. But as we're convening, and we have several interactions, we start to develop or refine and strengthen that trust. And so, to answer your question, Rob, you know that trusting relationship must continue throughout the process because there's in my walk, oftentimes I find my clients kind of reverting back to what they're comfortable with, right? What they're used to. For instance, if you're used to operating in the mode of aloofness, in the case of
I
a
feel
lot of
seen.
leaders, right? Everything's cool. I really don't care. That's your comfort zone, right? So when you're challenged, it's easy to just revert back to that. And when I return, back outside, I'm like, hey, what happened, Mary? You were on fire. Um, I'm able to reignite what reignite that focus on where we were going. Change your condition to change your position, right? So that's what we've been throwing out. It's my trademark approach. It's not a methodology because I think every methodology doesn't work for every person. They're unique. But the goal is to change your condition. We have this condition. I don't know what you don't know what mine is. I don't know what everyone else's is, but it's something that's most likely holding you back from reaching that position. So I like to focus on, okay, what is the challenge? Not what your weaknesses are, but the challenge really in the mindset. And so trust enables us to move forward. Trust enables me to work with my client to get to that destination. So that's that's the most effective answer I can give as far as how I practice.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you, Craig. We a few weeks ago we were talking about the fact that 98% of CEOs have basically said that they're going to drive change with their business model. It was either in the next year or the next 3 years, and we kind of we did a poll with the audience and with the group to ask, how many CEOs do we actually think will end up driving change? And I think the average was about 20%, if I'm not mistaken. Someone even said 5%.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about what you do in kind of how do I help a CEO reach the conclusion that he needs to change first, then he hires you, I guess. But then obviously you've got this task of helping them to identify what they need to change when you're working with them.
Right. Hey, very, very, very pointed question there, Alex. Because yeah, I mean, we don't know. I have a process, right? So it's not like, hey, here's a check, Craig, come help me, solve, all the challenges of our organization. It doesn't work that way. So it's again, we have that trust. Then there is an opportunity for us to sit down and talk about, objectives, how we're going to achieve them, and looking more so globally when it's like I said, I'm not a business coach, right? So and I cover a lot of areas, but however, my first focus is on the person who makes that decision, right? And yeah, everyone's involved, but moreover, it's important to keep in mind that most CEOs, most corporate executives, like I said before, have been trained to walk, talk, and think that way. And I know you guys touch base on that as well, right? Everyone is wanting to, be like someone else. And so you already, typically in, the beginning of some of that relationship building, you're going to see some flexing of what I believe I'm supposed to do, right? It's breaking the barriers to find that individual, right? Without all the mass. And so, I had this conversation the other day where, when, you come in and, you're having a conversation and they say things like, hey, Craig, have you ever worked with a company our size? Have you, have you worked within our industry before? And, mind you, I'm industry agnostic, right? Uh, what they're really asking is, hey, can you help me, remain in the status quo? That's what they're asking. Can you help us be just like we were? But why am I here? I thought you were looking at a change initiative, right? Can you help me, look like everyone else again? Like, it's ridiculous. So, as I have these conversations, and I'm sharing these little stories and notes. I do this with my clients. That ultimately help them think differently. One of the most effective ways that I do this is getting them out of their four-wall sanctuary, right, where it's safe. Whether they work remotely or whatever, get them out of their environment, introduce them to new people, fresh perspectives, and far away from their natural surroundings, and having these conversations and really engaging with them on a trust basis, right, on that collaborative, like I'm there with you, we're working together, right? And everything that I'm able to do and produce is not me, it's we, it's us working together. I wouldn't know what the challenge is unless you told me, right? And so how can there's no tool or any cape that I have to put on to be the star, because it's not me. My clients are the change agents. They just need to realize that, and those options, or exposure to new things is helpful. But yet there's only one collaborator. So
Yeah.
So
yeah.
along those lines, collaborating,
Mhm.
two things. First, I want to invite the audience to bring in their questions. What challenges are you facing? What ways are you trying to get your leaders to change? Or any question that you might have for really Craig or anyone on the panel. Second, I know before we came on, Jordan had started to share with us a question he had. So, Jordan, would you please share with us that question?
Yeah, sure. So, Craig, I watched a number of your videos ahead of today's call. So,
Thank you.
really enjoyed them. There was one that really stood out to me, in which you were speaking about the risks or the impacts that commoditization will have on businesses. And it brought two stats in particular to mind. So the first is Gartner's findings that 72% of buyers prefer a rep-free experience, or to not have to interact with a rep at any point throughout a purchasing decision. And then the second, I believe it was a Trust Radius report, that found that lack of transparency is one of the number one reasons for a buyer or a buying group to discount or not include a vendor in a review or the shortlist. So I guess my question is that a sign of things to come, that even the more complex purchasing decisions are becoming commoditized?
Yeah, Thank you for checking out the video. I do appreciate that, Jordan. And
Yeah.
I've got a few out there, that touch base on, I don't consider myself a futurist, but sometimes I think that way, right? Who knows? I don't know. We're exposed to a lot of noise out there, and some of these stats pan out, some don't, right? Because I don't know everyone in the world, and I don't know what they're thinking. We're just watching behaviors based off of our analytics, right? But as far as the future is concerned, if there are still some true diehard, uh, lovers of people, which we all are, then I don't think we're going to let the shift to uh, AI and uh, computer interaction stop us from collectively growing as a species. And what I mean by that is anyone from I consider myself old school. I'm only 43, but my mentality is always, regardless of what comes to pass, barring the Terminator effect. We're still going to need people. We're going to need people to program these machines. We're going to still need to interact in some way or another. What did people do hundreds of years ago, right? As we went into different revolutions, we adapted and we found ways to utilize those tools more effectively. I think just where we're at right now, we're in a funny place, similar to that of music. Just to mess with you, Adam, right? Every once in a while, after Prince died, that was the end of music for me. But there are some artists that have come out and really hit, they struck a note that was that drove us to really experience more than just digital music, right? Experience, the performance and, the show. We saw Boys to Men last night, and I was like, wow, they did a great job. It was just three people, but they put on a show. What I'm getting at is that we always, just as people, have found a way to adapt to, our surroundings with all the noise and the chatter out here. And, in most cases, everyone saying that their expertise is predicting the future. We run into those doom and gloom, type of situations. If you looked at that video deeper, Jordan, I had shared that the best way to defend against commoditization is, really honing in and honoring, the strength of the company you keep, and that's your people, right? So if I engage with a leader, I'm going to share with them practices and principles to keep it people focused, right? Count on the people. Yes, we have collaboration tools. We have, if we look at everyone's stack, it's all the same stuff, right? Even if I wouldn't had someone build a custom system for me, a custom CRM or whatever, it's still a template configured for me. It's the same stuff. And now I think I stand out because I have tools. I think I stand out because the grandeur of my name, or my company's history, or moving away from understanding my best way and the best, the most important way, um, or effective way I could stand out is through the efficacy of my people, and that's the collective.
Have you seen Mark? I know you put Mark's comment up, Adam, but it's just wanted to bring that. The biggest challenge I ever had with leaders in the offshore environment. Just so you know, Mark works in oil and gas.
Okay.
So when he's talking about oil rigs. So
Mark?
biggest challenge I ever had with leaders in the offshore environment was getting them to recognize that we had put them in a leadership role. I got several together to review a job description, and none of them actually recognize it as their own position.
That's priceless. That's absolutely priceless, isn't it?
And by the way, Mark also says that he met Boys to Men in a Vegas hotel corridor 2 years ago, and they were awesome, and he agrees.
Oh, awesome, Mark. Yeah. Oh man, it was a great show. My wife was instrumental in planning ahead. I think she bought the tickets like three months prior, but it's a great show. And to your question, Mark, unless someone else wants to share.
No.
Okay.
Please, sure.
All right. Well, so every promotion should be strategic, right? It shouldn't be just based off of tenure or, hey, you know what? Rob did a great job for us. I'm not poking at you, Rob. Just use the name.
Fair enough.
Rob did a great job, and you look at us. We're doing great. It's time for promotion. That's not strategic thinking, right? You're thinking of the long haul. And if you're thinking of the long haul, you should be prepping and grooming that person to assume the new position, the new role, over a period of time. Don't do it, because a vacancy opened up. And sometimes, you really can't, you know, uh, plan, for, a crisis or something that, is urgent. However, if, leaders or people who make these decisions aren't focused on developing that person, right, beyond just the short win or because they've been with us so long, they're setting the organization up, or at least that department, up for failure. So um, being able to recognize that you have assumed a new role um, is, I mean, it's important that the leaders who have made that decision have invested the time to acclimate you to what that role what the role requires, right? And again, I'm going to insert this, and I move through these spaces so much, everyone's focused on the title. Bankers have, the vice presidents and all that stuff. It's really the role. What role do you play in the grand scheme of things? What is your role, right? When we eliminate titles, and I'm not saying you do that. Our titles are based off of, communicating with other businesses. Oh, well, I'm the VP of HR. Oh, you are too. So we have like a directory, or we can go on, org, and look at, the organizational chart and say, okay, that's my target. That's who I'm going for. But they're all titles. And unfortunately, as great as we are as human beings, the majority of us, right, get gassed up about our title, right? Maybe a little bit of money, came with that promotion or with that title, and now I'm superior, right? And I'm focusing on being the boss based off of a title instead of being the person in charge based off of the role that I play. Leaders should not be micromanaging, nor should they be mixed up in everything, right? You have expertise all around you. What a leader should be doing, is not only identifying what role they play, but they should help others identify their respective roles. And that's with interaction. That's why it'll never die, right? There will always be business for me, and I'm assuming all of you guys, right? Because we get so caught up into these systems of not only thinking, but operating based off of old, metrics and, what everyone else said that we're supposed to do.
So, Craig, what I heard you say was for somebody to have career advancement, that should be prepared in advance.
Correct.
That's ideal. In my experience, not only does that not happen, but once they're in that role, it very often doesn't happen. That is career development, especially in my world. I see it where salespeople are promoted from the frontline sales to the top performer, of course, becomes the next sales manager. They don't know how to manage. They don't know how to hire. They know how to sell. And it's just presumed that because they were so good at this, they'll be equally great at everything. Right. I want to ask the rest on the panel, have you experienced anything like that in other industries, in other realms? Alex, I see you shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah, well, it was me.
Whoa.
Hey,
so, back in.
I've seen that happen in the tech industry too. Is that you get somebody who's like a super good developer, and then you make them the VP of development, and then all of a sudden, and just assume that they're going to be good at all of those other things. And you're right, it doesn't happen.
The one thing I had for the 2 years that I was really transitioning from sales rep to sales leader was a strong mentor. And without him, I would have surely failed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it happens a lot. It happens a lot, and I think that a lot of companies. I worked for a company where they were constantly being taken to tribunal and losing because of the fact that they had managers and leaders who didn't really know how to manage and lead. It was at that point when they started investing in training, because it was cheaper to buy expensive training than it was to keep losing at tribunal. We have different, our employment laws are quite significantly different to the ones in the US, especially around discrimination and stuff like that. So it was costing them a fortune.
Yeah. And I'll add to that too, what you were sharing, Tim. And a lot of training and things of that nature. They're supposedly proven to be effective, right? But I believe that everything is situational. And Alex, as you shared, you had a mentor, right, that helped guide you through. That means that they actually were, you were prepared. I think it's laziness on behalf of leadership if they don't focus on those things, like, oh wow, and let's go ahead and promote this person because they did so well, for us in this capacity, without truly identifying, whether or not they have the goods. I'm, of course, with some discretion. I'm actively going through that right now. I asked my client the other day. I said, "Do you think that this person is ready?" And the majority of the things that were shared told me again that uh, he wasn't sure if that person was ready. Okay,
But
so
often
what do we
the
need?
issue is that people are, their belief is that the only way they get career advancement is by moving into management.
Yeah.
So Tim and I and Alex all worked at the same company. If you were an independent contributor, there was a limit to your power within the business. You needed to be a manager of a team, or a manager of managers of teams, or a manager of managers of teams.
Mhm.
And that's the only way that you could advance within the organization. And the only people that achieved VP or SVP or RVP role as an independent contributor were people that came through acquisition, that said, if you want me in the company, this is what I'll do. I don't want any of that stuff. So, and
So-
it's really interesting that your contribution to the organization in most organizations isn't enough to get you the visibility and the plaudits that you deserve for success. What is a large team that report to you.
Yeah. Let me jump in on that real quick, Adam. And so that's the other thing. What our motivation, it's intrinsic, right? What's driving us to want to, move up in our career? Is it, the power? Is it, more money? Is this just a natural progression that I'm supposed to have? I know people who've worked, a entry level, or lower level position have been, completely happy. Right. And so you have a lot of folks and, unfortunately, a lot of young people thinking that, hey, this is the path that I should take. And once I'm a manager, or once I get here, I'll be able to, purchase this or, show off on Instagram, how truly successful I am. Success isn't, I don't consider success money. Right. I think it's just the byproduct of doing a good job. But I would assume the majority of us, we like money, we need money, but that's not, what drives us. Um, it's if I do ascend to this new role or this new position, what are my motives? Why am I doing it? And I think that's overlooked quite a bit as well. So you have everyone vying for the top spot, can't handle the top spot. Then they wonder why, things aren't going well and why they haven't, achieved success. But we're inundated with a bunch of junk out here, though. Everyone's telling you this is what you have to do. Even from my old school, background, it's like keep your nose clean, keep moving forward, and one day you'll be president of the universe. Well, that's not always true, right? But a lot of folks believe that, and they subscribe and buy into it, and they operate in that mode. And for myself and my clients, I like to really dispel a lot of that junk. So we have these conversations that are very intimate. I'm not here, okay, I don't charge by the hour, so you got me, here we go. Let's get this going. Let's find out what it truly is. And it's not, within, an 8-hour conversation. It's over time. And as you had a mentor, Alex, it's great when people, actually invest in you enough to encourage you to invest in yourself.
Adam,
I just want
can you
to
bring up-
add something quickly there on because Craig, you talk a lot about collaboration, right? And when we are looking at like what's the role of a leader, what's the role of an individual contributor, and you can actually bring all of those together in a collaborative way without saying, I think, because at the end of the day, one, people want to do a good job. People want to be able to show up and say that I did something today that was meaningful to the organization, right? And hopefully meaningful to me at the same time. And also, some people just don't want to manage people. And that doesn't mean that they're not a valuable contributor. And so when we eliminate those contributions because they aren't quote unquote leaders, then we're missing out on a lot of really useful contribution that can make our company, make the secret sauce of our company come to life. So it's something that I'm really passionately opposed to, is this concept of only managers get to contribute in a decision-making capacity, because it doesn't make sense. We'll hire a consultant, an external consultant to come in and give us an advice, but we won't listen to the people who've worked at our company for 16 years who have knowledge about how we could fix this problem. Drives me nuts.
And that's where innovation comes from, right? So if you guys don't mind, so Sally, may have come up with a brilliant idea, probably wasn't right for the time, but it was dismissed, or someone scoffed at, even the thought. Sally is going to lock up and not share that secret sauce, if you will, or that thing that'll help them raise the bar and get and stand out within their industry, their sector, or their neighborhood, because they're often overlooked because of failed decisions. Like I said, lazy earlier. Hey, if you're not taking the time to really get to know your people and see if they're built for the role, then shame on you. That's just like downsizing. You downsize because you guys messed up. Now everyone else has to suffer, right? You're supposed to rally the troops. And I shared earlier, so I cover strategy, organizational development, culture, process improvement, and of course, positioning, right? But I do that through a chain. And so change your condition to change your position is the leadership focus. Align your C-suite with Main Street is okay. The counterparts of the C-level or the den of chiefs, as I like to call it, right? They need to kind of be brought up to speed as well, because they're mirroring the intentions and the behaviors of the leader, because everyone aspires to get to that role. So the sabotage, backstabbing, or misalignment is present. Once we have all those things in order, right, then I move down the channel and I talk about, of course, people. I mean, they're happening all at the same time, right? Because instead of multitasking, it's looking at the global progression, of the organization, not just, hey, someone hired me in to help them, right? Because I can't help you if you can't help me and you can't help your people. So culture lives within people. Another one of my trademarked approaches, right, is focused on kind of bringing things back to the whole. So I engage and interact with each and every person there, right? Not asking them, like I said, probing questions so I can look good, but really knowing, hey, why are you here? Do you really understand your role, right? And so once we develop, a recipe, and again, I'm keeping these things in mind. Change your condition to change your position. If I get off of, if I get off track, or my client gets off of track, because we're supposed to hold each other accountable, all I have to do is mention that, right? Oh yeah, that's the focus. It's not, oh well, this is step 4 and step 9 of the process. No, let's get back on track. culture lives within people, align your C-suite with Main Street. But that big thing that, we talked about with innovation, right? So there's no substitute for better, as I've plugged. This is the third time now, right? How do we get better? How do we raise that bar and raise that standard? And once we do that, we're better suited for positioning. Does it ideally happen, as expected? No. But we have people who have changed their mindsets, their attitudes, or their approaches towards the work that they do. And you said it right. People want to have autonomy, or they want to have significance. We all do, right? We're a bunch of talking heads, brains sitting in here. We want to be known. We want to be, somewhat liked, or feel as though we made an impact. And oftentimes that opportunity is missed. And that's why I absolutely love, engaging with people and exploring, what would that look like conceptually? What would it look like if, you were able to ascend to this role? What would it look like if everyone in here wasn't a slacker? So I digress. I'll stop. I'll stop with all the talk.
Craig, we've actually had a question here from Mark.
Yes.
Who says, I asked Craig why his nicely lit shelves behind him have nothing on them, so no trophies.
Because I'm the showpiece, man. Yeah, I just
wanted to I just wanted to highlight the point that Rob Turrell and Andrew, their most recent comments, they were spot on in terms of what I was driving at. People promoted into positions that really have no, I don't want to say right, but ability to be there, and it isn't often developed. But I want to go back even earlier, if you could, Adam, find Rob Turrell's question, because while he asked that earlier, I think we've come back to that a couple of times now. He's asking, do you use just conversations, but also other tools like personality feedback to build the picture of the individual, or perhaps some of their social media? How do we go about that? What do we do to help understand their personality, come back to that originality piece, and tie it into further development of these individuals?
So wow. I've always used Myers-Briggs as a personality thing. That's the one that I was taught when I did my management training. But Robert said,
I like Clifton Strengths. Clifton Strengths is always great because it tells you strengths, things that you can focus on developing instead of weaknesses. And I think
I've done colors I've done the colors one as well, which is, and again, it's really useful for understanding people because yes, as Tracy says, you understand strengths, but you also understand people's weaknesses, and then you can take that into account.
Can I be the contrarian here, guys?
Yeah, please do, Craig. We love that.
All right. I've always thought, and they're great tools. I'm not knocking anything. Of course, the Briggs is great. I think that when people see their diagnosis, right, or they're like, oh, wow, that's me, they follow it, like a horoscope, and they're spending more time wanting to be exactly those things. And so you'll notice the shift in their personality, or feeling, enlightened to say, wow, I'm a low C or whatever. Right. And so when I engage with a lot of people, I hear them, share their results from, a lot of those particular assessments. And, I say, okay, well, let's just back it up. Let's really uncover what you are, beyond the surface. That's just my take.
So I had a fun exercise with my class recently.
Yeah.
They were coming into class and they were supposed to take a career personality assessment type of thing. So they did that and came to class. And here we are, we're supposed to go over the results with them. Instead, I gave them a completely different test, a style awareness, talking about their communication style and so on. Mm-hmm. And then I shared with them that both of these were bogus tests, because I could get you to change your answer and therefore change the outcome. And I said to them, any test where you do not get the same result every time is not scientifically valid.
Mhm.
Now, it is
point.
directionally accurate, but simply because this career assessment said you should be, it told me I should be a cinematographer.
Mine told me I should be a dude rancher.
Well, there you go.
And Mark makes a great point there, which is to say that, you know, a lot of people see performance management reviews and any of these tests basically you're just trying to check up on me and then you're going to use it against me. So, you know, you need to have a safe environment, psychological safety.
So that's what I was telling them. Hey, you took this test under these conditions. What if you took this test as part of a job application? What if you took this test as part of a job review? What if you took this test as a fun night out at the bar with a bunch of friends? You're going to answer very differently about your communication style or your career desires or whatever the case may be, based on what you think the right answer should be.
Because we're more dynamic. We're more dynamic, Rob. We're more than just like this singular, you know, personality feature or trait, right? In different environments change how we respond. You're absolutely head on that.
Two very strong words put together. I am. When you put I am and anything after it,
Craig,
you start to believe that.
You've got a registered trademark.
Several.
Have you registered your name as a trademark?
My name, a silhouette of my face, and all of my trademarked approaches. I'm very intentional about identifying the source.
Right. I can understand you saying trademarking the collaborator, because we looked at trademarking and stuff when we first started in the business. But the fact that you've done your name, I just thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, that was important to me, right? And so there's well, Rob, you're in the U.S. You're not too far, Tracy, and the rest of you. There was a basketball player named Craig Neal.
All right, there's a Christian rock star called Timothy Hughes. So
yeah, okay. I'd love to hear some of his music sometime.
Yeah, I get a CD every year from my brother. Always buys me for Christmas and thinks it's fun.
Yeah, so you know, right? So it's like you have your McKinseys and you have all these, you know, big, you know, consulting behemoths, right? The most powerful brand I've always subscribed to is your name, right? I want people to remember me as Craig. If they say the collaborator, sure, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you know, my friends, my family, you know, everyone knows me as Craig.
Cool.
And so, yeah, it's important to identify the source, and you know, hey, I share a lot of stuff, and you know, I share it freely. I'm not asking anyone, you know, to subscribe or like or whatever. I just like sharing different, you know, experiences that are important, and it's nice to know, you know, where it comes from.
And just it's an in joke, Craig, but Andrew basically said that that the digital download should have trademarks. Just do the thing. It's an internal joke for this. It's something that Tracy basically, that's a quote from her. So and he's totally
Nike
right.
might challenge you on that, right? That'd be considered confusingly similar. I believe that's the term for at least, you know, for U.S. trademarks. But you know, come up with some other ones if you need some help. Maybe I can, you know, share that too. Yeah.
We have
Jack says that they're a minefield. They are a minefield. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been fun. Thus far, I wish we could talk for you know another
Thank you so much for coming on, Craig. It is about 1 minute.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob,
yes.
and thank you all for having me on today. This has been.
Thank you for Craig and sharing your insight and expertise. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Quick question, Craig. How can our audience learn more about you and connect with you, or to use your term, collaborate?
Indeed. Thanks. Yeah. So you can find me at craigneal.com, CraigNeal. There's a way to contact me. And then I guess socially, it's at Change Condition. Or am I
Excellent.
supposed to say the at sign? Yeah. Change condition,
Sure.
I think, yeah, it screams everywhere. So feel free to. Thank you.
All right. Well, Craig, thank you so much for being here. Panelists, of course, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Rob.
Audience, again, adding to the conversation and enriching the experience for all of us. Thank you very much. Until next week, this
And thank
is
you to
the
Jordan.
digital download.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes, thank you,
Jordan.
Jordan.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
So
Have a
Craig,
good week,
you know, it's
everybody.
Jordan's first session today as well. You've got something in common. It was your.
Indeed.
That's right.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
guys.
everyone.
All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody.